Hey everyone, I'm back again, and this time with a film review. And there could only be one film that you'd be looking at right now, and that is Mission Impossible Fallout. Number 6 in the series, started in 1996. So Tom Cruise has been for 22 years Ethan Hunt. It's just amazing. So I'm going to do our usual thing, which is I'm going to tell you whether you should go see it and whether you should see it in the cinema or not. Then we'll have a break and I'll just talk about the film generally, and then we'll have spoilers. So should you go see this film? Wow. You have to run just as fast as Tom Cruise always runs in all his films and go see this, because this is arguably the best action film of the year, and maybe one of the best action films maybe since Mad Max Fury Road. And I don't include the Marvel, like Avengers, as action. Their superhero films are a little bit different, the dynamics. The reason why you have to go see this film is, wow, for number 6 in a series, this really is arguably the best Mission Impossible film. I probably lean slightly towards Rogue Nation, which was number 5, but still, normally, you know, you have a great film and then it starts to go downhill. And this one's getting better. And I think that's probably because of the cruiser. He just is Ethan Hunt. So whether you're going to go see it or not, go see it in the biggest cinema you can get to. In Australia, that's hard. If you're in America, go to IMAX and see this film as soon as you can. It will be not as good on TV, and definitely worth seeing. So I'm going to be back in a second and we'll talk more. Okay, let's talk Mission Impossible Fallout. Now, the first thing you got to talk about is not Tom Cruise, it's Christopher McQuarrie. So why do you know that name? So Christopher McQuarrie really came onto the scene with a bang, not as a director, but as a writer for The Usual Suspects, which is a cult classic from, I don't know, a million years ago. Then he doesn't really do much. He works as a writer, and he then does a film called Way of the Gun, which I've never seen. Then there's a 12-year gap and he does Jack Reacher, which is okay, but it's nothing incredible. But it does have the cruiser in it. And then he does Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which everyone goes, wow, this is real old school action. You know, everyone loves it. And I actually think it's borderline the best of the Mission Impossible series, which is a very solid series. There's only one bad film, Mission Impossible 2. We all agree on that. Then he comes back for this. So that's a really interesting career. He's done a little bit of TV in between. So what Christopher McQuarrie does is he basically says, I'm not going to use much CGI at all. In fact, it's hard to pick the CGI in this. I'm going to do old school stunts. And the reason why he's able to do that is he's got Tom Cruise. Now, Tom Cruise wears it like a badge of honor that he will not use a stuntman, which really you got to think back to the days of Jackie Chan, who did martial arts films, which are way more dangerous, but who didn't have a stuntman. And what this does is it changes the dynamic of the film completely in 2 ways. One is, when anything is happening, it looks real. So when you see Tom Cruise jumping across buildings like you see in the trailer, and famously you see him slam, you go, wow, that must have hurt. And of course we now know he broke his ankle, kept going while the camera was filming, got off screen, collapsed, was out for 8 weeks, cost them $80 million because they said, we're just going to keep paying everybody. Everything looks like it's real, therefore it looks like someone could get hurt, therefore there are stakes. The second thing is, it changes how he shoots. So whenever Tom Cruise is doing something dangerous, they've actually changed the way they shoot the scene. So for instance, on the trailer you see him jump out of a plane. On the trailer you see him on a motorbike. On the trailer you see him. Now, what they do is, they shoot it so you always can see his face. Like if you look at the motorbike helmet, that's a strange helmet. It looks like it's got lights up here. Why? Because they want you to know when Tom Cruise is going through the traffic, that's Tom Cruise, not a stuntman, not CGI. So there's all these little subtle effects, and they all collide psychologically on the viewer to go, wow, Tom Cruise is basically more Ethan Hunt now than Tom Cruise when it comes to the Mission Impossible films. Now, so Cruise is great as usual because he just brings that charisma in a way which over 6 films you now know that character. There's lots of shorthand. They bring back people. They do little tips of the hat all the time, and if you're into it, you get it. If you don't, it doesn't really matter. It's just texture. The rest of the crew come back. So you've got Ving Rhames as Luther. You've got Benji, Simon Pegg. The best part of the crew, I think, is Rebecca Ferguson. And I'm checking her name because they've got these great names. And she's Ilsa Faust, which if you're christened with that name, you kind of got to become either a super spy or take over the world. She's fantastic. She's a bit underutilized in this film compared to Rogue Nation. She was pregnant, so I suspect they had to work around that. The other guy I absolutely love is Sean Harris. Now, Sean Harris plays the villain. So he's, again, you're going to be probably a villain if you're christened Solomon Lane. And he's got that great English voice and just that look. And I'm going to talk about my favorite scene in the film later on in spoiler. Well, there's 2 great scenes. The whole cast is really, really good. Angela Bassett plays the head of the CIA. Alec Baldwin comes back. But, wow, the best part of the film in a lot of ways is the mustache. Now, famously, Henry Cavill was in Justice League, and he had grown a mustache for Mission Impossible. And so, because of Tom Cruise breaking his ankle, he couldn't go and do Justice League without keeping the mustache. And so, there was a deal done that they said, look, if you give us $3 million, he can shave it off and we'll put it on digitally. And the people at Warner Brothers said, no, we're not going to pay you $3 million. We'll just digitally remove it. Wow, was that a mistake? Because the whole time you're watching Justice League, you're looking and he looks like a clay face and it looks all horrible. Should have just paid the $3 million. So the great thing about Henry Cavill is, I don't know if you ever see him in real life, he's not that big a guy. I mean, he's big, but he's not bigger than Tom Cruise. But he is built because he's always, doing weights to play Superman. And he moves his body so differently. And he's just a great counterpart to Ethan Hunt. He's like the Trumpian US, and Cruise is a little bit more, let's think this through. And the two are great. And there's a fight scene early on, which I think we can talk about. It's in all the trailers. And I think it's probably the best fight scene I've seen in a very long time. Probably equal with Jack versus the Raccoon in Incredibles 2. It is just so much fun. Great choreography. I can't remember the name of the guy who plays, I did write it down before, Liang Yang. Now he plays the guy who, it's all complicated who he is, that's not important. And he's a dangerous guy, we know, and man, he is amazing. So that scene itself is worth the entry price alone. So is this film able to carry the weight of its story? Well, maybe we should go into spoilers because I do have some questions there about if you actually think about this, does it make sense? Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so we're in spoilers now, so we can talk about it. So the plot is really just a MacGuffin. The plutonium goes missing and they've got to get it. And really it's just the whole through line for the whole film is Ethan just go around the world hunting this stuff till you get to the end and save the world. One of the tricks would be at any point if you try to work out who has the plutonium. I tried to do this. It's really difficult. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. Also, it's very silly. There's a scene early on where Tom Cruise has taken on this persona of Mr. Lark or something, and he uses it after the big fight scene to get into the nightclub, and then he's talking with the White Widow, and she's singing at the beginning. She's like a Lady Gaga or something. There's like 1,000 people in there. It's, through a rave, and it's this little nightclub. She's singing. Everyone's looking at her. Everyone knows who she is. And they start to talk, and then these assassins come in, and they are killing people. She kills someone in front of about hundreds of witnesses. It's just stupid. It really is. And yet you don't care. You kind of go, oh, that's just so stupid. And then you just move on because you want to know how Tom Cruise is going to be endangered in real life again. So you just keep going. So Christopher McQuarrie just does some really good things. At any point, you are never confused what the action is or where it's going. He uses his frame beautifully, and the sight lines are always clear. And sometimes when they use CGI a lot, which he doesn't, I think it does get cluttered. People aren't sure where they're supposed to be looking, and as an audience member, you get confused. Your brain starts to go, what? I'm not sure what's happening. That is not a problem here. Now, one of the best scenes by far is early on, they've got to get Solomon Lane and the villain, and there's this whole plot as to how to get him. And of course, Ethan Hunt comes up with his own plot. But as part of that, they punch through and knock the kind of police van he's in. And this is what I want to talk about attention to detail. So you could do that, and you could just make it that the van just sinks. Yeah, that'd still look pretty good. That's not enough for Christopher McQuarrie. So Christopher McQuarrie envisages that as the van is going, it's gonna keep tumbling. So therefore the water just isn't gonna come in and kind of go up. It's going to be circular. And it's a great scene because of course the villain is in a straitjacket, like a Hannibal Lecter kind of thing. And this is the part I love, because all these people are really superheroes, because no one else would do this. What he does is he's got about, I'd say about 1 second, 1.5 seconds before the water will flip and he'll be inundated. And if you watch Solomon Lane, what he does is he hyperventilates, he flattens his lung. He gets all his air out. So he goes, then as the water's about to hit, he takes this huge breath. Now what that means is he can then breathe for the next 3 to 4 minutes, because he knows, he's already done the math. This isn't an accident. Someone's going to come and get me. And we know from an earlier Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt can hold his breath for 6 minutes. So he holds it for 3 or 4 and gets saved. I thought it was just a great touch about how these people think in this world. Look, the film is great. I think it's one of those real old school Hollywood films. Go and see it, because I tell you what, apart from a little bit of fun with Meg coming up, which is going to be even just completely ridiculously stupid, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. You're going to be in a bit of, if you're into action, there'll be a couple of horror films around October, but really you got to get to the next action scale, which will be around December odd. So you got a while to go. Film's great, go see it. If you like what I'm doing, press like, subscribe, then you'll see all my book reviews, my film reviews, and a bit of TV also. And I'm on Twitter, @Guru Eden. I'll talk to you then. Bye.